UFC 296, Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena, last pay-per-view of the year. I'm excited to be breaking it down with you, Frank. Tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, it's a good card, man. It's pretty good top to bottom. Even the limmies, the early limmies, are all looking pretty good. So, I mean, kicking off the main card, obviously, is that Ian Gary. That's been the talk of the town, not because of his fighting at the moment, but because of other stuff that's in it. I'm sure we're going to get into it, but yeah, I'm keen to see it all play out, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at this card, and there's just every matchup is something you don't want to lose on the pay
Mm,
per view. We always have these, short notice fights that either get put together at the last minute because someone falls out with an injury or weight cutting issue or something. And there's really not a fight on this card, even in the prelims, that I don't want to see. That isn't intriguing me. Like I've got the odds up on Sportbet. It's just full of underdogs everywhere. But at the same time, you can make an argument for each side of the fence to really win in these fights. So I think we'll break down the main card here. We'll get right into it. Vicente Luque is taking on Ian Machado Gary, as you said. And the line is set as Ian Machado Gary, $1.24 on Sportsbet currently, and Vicente Luque at $4.10, which is very, very attractive knowing how much of an assassin that guy can be. Where's
mm.
your head at the moment, Frank, with this one?
A couple of weeks ago, we spoke about some dogs, and they came good, and they were around that number, almost north of that number as well. Nick Dolby's, that rings a bell from my memory. Vicente Luque, I'd like to put in the category. I don't like to think that we always go dog hunting here on the Food Fight Cast, but Vicente Luque, if you'd not told me what the odds were on this, I always like his chances in a fight because he's well rounded, because he can take a shitload of damage, because he can take it deep. I always feel like he's got a dog in the race, if that sort of makes sense. Gary is as much of a dickhead as he is, he's been killing it. Like he's a great fighter, man. I think it's going to be really good to see how he goes against someone like Vicente. This could be your classic undefeated up and comer hits a wall with a veteran, with a crafty veteran story. You see it all the time, like Dolby the other week, right?
Yeah, with Bonfim, absolutely. And they've trained together, so it's going to be interesting to see what either of them have taken out of that.
Mm.
Uh, Look, Ian Gary, I'm not his biggest fan, but he is a great fighter. He has shown improvements and more composure with each UFC fight. The jitters are completely gone. His skill set is on display, and cardio is not an issue for this man. He seems to be quite fresh in the third round as opposed to the first round. We saw it in the Neil Magny fight. He was aggressive and hurting Neil, and just looking to dominate and win every round in that fight. The thing is, he's never really ran into someone yet in the UFC that can put his lights out with one
Mm.
shot, that can, submit him, that is really threatening in the finishing aspect, as we can see in a Vicente Luque. This is
Yeah.
definitely his toughest test. And it wouldn't be fair if we just ignored everything that's been happening in the last few weeks in terms of the media, because that's going to be a real testament to see how Gary handles that. I
Mm.
mean, last time around, he did that open workout in the bar, and didn't seem to phase him the next day. But this is a bit different. People are going at after his family. Chael Sonnen's making a new video about it every 5 minutes, from what I can see on
It is, yeah.
on YouTube, and different takes here and there, and they're linking Kobe Covington to it all, and it's going to
Mm.
be really interesting to see how he balances his mental game there.
You bring up that bar sparring thing that he did, right? That Friday night before. Everyone keeps making a big thing about it, like it was so unorthodox because you go to the hotel, you go to the UFC sanctioned media, you go back to the hotel, you rinse and repeat until fight day. The fact that he did that, I would think, meant that he was probably in a pretty good mental state. The fact that he could pull off something like that and then go and compete the next day as well as he did. This is a little bit different. I feel like this is actually rattling the things that he has said makes it seem like, okay, you're showing us your hand here, dude. Like it's obviously getting to you that you're worried for your family's safety and all this other stuff that he's saying. The Jeff Neal stuff that he went into before he actually fought him and didn't really seem to have a problem with that. But then as soon as it's thrown back at him, it's a massive issue. You talk about guys that haven't been able to give him, with knockout power or submission threats and all that. I was really bummed out. I know you were as well. We spoke about it. That Jeff Neal, he could have been one of those guys to give him a good test, a good crack. Neil Magny coming in at short notice wasn't really like. I mean, he took him as far as he could. Yeah, I feel like you said, Vicente Luque is probably going to be that first guy that can really challenge him in all aspects of MMA.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you'd have to think so, given the lineup that Vicente Luque has had, the names that he's taken on, win or loss, he's got a lot out of those experiences.
Yeah.
And he seems to be a lot more composed in his recent fights. He went 5 rounds, I think it was, with RDA. I don't think that fight ended in a finish. And I know RDA is maybe not the biggest welterweight, but Luque can go the distance. He doesn't get tired. He's only getting better every fight. I have to say, like at $4, I just can't ignore it. If I was betting on this fight, I'd be sprinkling it on Luque. I'd have to do it. And we've seen Ian Gary get knocked down in some of those earlier fights against, people outside of the top 15, any chump on the roster. This isn't that. This is a real top 15, a real solid fight in Luque. I'm gonna have to back my boy Luque here.
Yep, that makes 2 of us, dude.
We'll keep the train rolling, and we'll go straight into Paddy Pimblett versus Tony El Kukui Ferguson, who is one of my all-time favorite fighters. When this fight first got announced, Frank, I wasn't really too happy about it. I thought they were trying to do my boy dirty here, Tony, and I think that's just a recency bias in my head. I've seen Tony on that win streak when I was becoming one of the world's biggest UFC fans, and we've seen him recently just on a losing streak, and he's fighting all these people that they're just trying to build. And as most recently as like a Bobby Green type character, building Bobby Green off the back of Tony's name. How do you feel about this one, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, that list that you said, the building off the names, I don't really subscribe to it only because of where he was sitting. I feel like he's kind of always been in that realm of, you're going to fight the Michael Chandlers. He wants to fight those types of guys because he earned that spot. Whether or not he can still hang with them, whether or not he's going to be a $3 or $4 underdog every time he walks out there, he's earned the spot to be on a pay-per-view main card on a 6-7 fight losing streak. He's earned that spot, whether he wants to be there or not. We're talking about the Vicente Luque Gary odds. I think that is wider than this should be. I think Tony at a 346 to $1.30, I would have thought he'd be wider than that, if I'm being honest. I think it's a better matchup than what people think, though. I'm actually into the Paddy Pimblett, Tony Ferguson thing. It's a similar sort of story, right? With the young guy versus the old guy. Paddy hasn't really been tested. Tony has been the tester for everyone. I can't really think of a more polarizing contrast of 2 different dudes as well. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to see, visually see in the cage as well. I like it. I like it more and more as it's getting closer. That as soon as I heard it was announced, I said that I actually was pretty into this. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, well, we've got the odds at $3.46 for Tony Ferguson and $1.31 favouring Paddy Pimblett, the younger fighter. Look, every time Tony fights, I want to bet with my heart. I want to say he's going to pull it off. I want to say he's going to win. We saw some footage of him training with David Goggins and going through Hell Week and looking like he's getting real fit. I just know, as much as Paddy blows out and he gets real fat in between camps, you see him on the embedded today. He looks pretty fresh. Looks like he's been training. He's going to have the better of the reflexes and the short, sharp movement, the footwork. He's going to be probably a little bit sharper. And I just think Tony's power is gone and his chin's not as good. He can get hurt early and can affect him for the rest of the fight here. What I think, though, that might be the saving grace for Tony is if they can start grappling early, I think Tony's way more threatening on the ground than Paddy Pimblett. I mean, Paddy got a submission win against Jordan Levitt, but I just think Tony needs to use that grappling early, make it dirtier earlier in the fight, not start going for Imanari rolls in round 3 or anything like that. Let's mix it up real nice and use all of his tools. Don't just fight with your hands down and get caught by something. Try to win this fight. Try to win every round. Mix it up. But it's just hard for me to say that he's going to pull it off. Like, I just don't want to do it to myself again. I'm just such a Tony Ferguson fan. I just don't know if I can go through that again. And Paddy Pimblett lost, like, in my opinion, lost his last fight against Jared Gordon. Everybody gets a banana peel moment. Is this Paddy Pimblett's banana peel moment? Is he going to just move on from that and finish Tony Ferguson early? And everyone's going to just start talking about Paddy again. I don't know, man. I really don't know how to feel about this one.
I'll give you a hypothetical, right? Say Paddy Pimblett's record was 19 and 4, and he lost with that. So the loss to Jared Gordon was actually a loss. What are the odds? What are the odds against Tony today?
Yeah, they'd be under the 3, I'd say. They'd be shaving that quite some.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be way closer, man. And like you said, ground game early when they're dry, it's automatically I mean, it's not automatically, but in my eyes, it's much closer to a 50-50 fight when they're not standing on the feet with the risk of Tony getting clipped. Like that, I feel like he's the best. He can hang with any sort of at the top 10 if it was a jiu-jitsu match. So I suppose, let's see what type of game he implements.
Yeah. I suppose if I was, again, betting with a bunch of units here, say you're throwing a sprinkle at it, I'd sprinkle on Tony Ferguson, and my heart just couldn't bet against him. So I'm either staying out of this one or I'm taking Tony Ferguson at maybe like a quarter unit or something like that.
Well, talking about huge dogs, man, let's push into the biggest one on the main card.
Yeah, this one just, I'm scratching my head at where they pull numbers out of their asses sometimes. These bookies, like these people that set the lines here. We've got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at $5.75 against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like, I understand Shavkat's supposed to be pegged as another Hamzat. He's looked unstoppable. He got hit a lot in that Jeff Neal fight. Let's just, get that out there real quick. He got hit a lot. And I understand that he's going to be the better wrestler. And we've seen Stephen Thompson struggle against the likes of a Bilal Muhammad or a Gilbert Burns when they decide to take the game to the mat. But, Stephen Thompson is still that guy. Like, he still had all that experience, still going to be able to keep it on the feet and get to that 15 minutes. You don't see him going in there against Gilbert Burns getting submitted. The fight's not over. He's still going to be there. And if Shavkat lets this fight sort of play out a little bit in that first round and there's a bit of damage and there's a bit of strikes getting thrown around, I don't see how Stephen Thompson is going to be the less technical striker and isn't going to be able to implement his game here. This is just way too wide for me. I mean, why would you even bet Shavkat at $1.14? If you're going to do it, you're betting him inside the distance. Maybe there's some value there when the odds open up, because we don't see Stephen Thompson get finished a lot. But at these odds, I'm just going to have to take Stephen for a sprinkle and either that or it's Shavkat for a finish.
Yeah, to me, I think the line is pretty close to right, only because there hasn't been the Jeff Neal fight with Shavkat was like the Hamzat and Gilbert Burns, right? It was sort of that first time where they seemed beatable. Like when he'd hit him, there was a couple of times where Jeff cracked him. I don't remember him ever being in any sort of danger. And then he bully choked him at the end just because he felt like it. Like, I think the guy really is that good, man. And especially when there's holes in Stephen's game that we've seen, like if you want to go really far back to even the Woodley fight, man, like Woodley controlled the shit out of him on the ground. Like, if it goes there, I don't think it's going to be a good night. If it was me, picking this fight or betting on it, I probably wouldn't touch it. Like, just purely on it's too risky. If I was to do a one-off, just a single 575 looks pretty juicy, and I'm sure the KO is probably even better. So, hopefully he can whip up one of those question mark kicks and make something happen. But yeah, I reckon the line's probably right.
This is one of those cards where if you want to do picks, just go on to Verdict and do the picks without the odds in front of you, because once you get the odds in front of you, who wants to take $1.14 and $1.31 and $1.24? That's the first 3 fights there. These are really, really close odds. So everyone's going to be playing with underdogs here, but it's a great fight at the end of the day. I mean,
that's it. Yeah,
Stephen's about 40 years old, roughly, give or take. I'm not sure where he stands now, but this is probably his last title run. Yeah. be his last run at the title. So if he can pull this off, maybe one more, and he's in the mix again. But hasn't been in high favor with the UFC lately. So we'll see how this plays out. It'll be a fun fight regardless.
Yeah, I agree.
On to the next one. We've got a rematch in Alexandre Pantoja fighting Brandon Royval. This is the flyweight title on the line. Last time around, Pantoja won via round 2 submission. I personally, think that we could have got some better fights for the title here, but I suppose there wasn't a lot of options available currently. Moreno probably needs a bit more time or has been booked elsewhere, and he's coming off the split decision loss to Pantoja, so he needs to get back in there before he can get another shot. Figgy's moved up to to 135 pounds, and I guess they're trying to move on. They're trying to move on with the division here, trying to build this into something, rematch, use that. I see Pantoja being the better in sort of every asset. He's going to have more power. He's going to have more scrambles. He's gone 25 minutes before. I think he takes this at $1.54.
Yeah, you're rattling off some of the contenders, right? I know Kai had his head injury, so he was supposed to have the fight with Manuel Cap, and there's a lot of guys in there that I would like to see eventually. Royval is one of the this is by way of the line in betting and the skill sets of the two guys. This is the perfect champion versus contender matchup as far as I think contest goes. I think Royval is and should be a pretty fair underdog, not out of the water, because you don't want to see a $4 or $5 title fight like that. That's just poor matchmaking, in my opinion. Got a guy who can bring the upset. He's got a bit of unknown about him as well, and he can also, he's got the skill sets to back it up. So I actually really like the matchup as a fight. Like you said, Pantoja, the line's perfect, 150, 250. Like it's almost bang on fair, and I think that's how it should be for when it comes to title fights. Like I don't think I've ever seen someone challenge for a title where they're a favorite and the champion's not. I mean, I'm sure it has happened, but you can't. This is the way that I'd like to see it, and I think they've got this one right. But yeah, I'm with you as well. I think Pantoja might just have that slight edge on him.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, Royval, he's the young one. He is growing. He is looking better. He's coming off a few good wins here. This is one of his make or break moments where he either breaks through and we see a new and improved Brandon Royval, or he slips back and goes back into contention and has more growth to get through before he gets another crack. He'd probably have to wait until Pantoja loses the belt to get that, but I think the line is very fair. You've got that 250 at Royval. You could make a case there. I'll take the safe money on Pantoja. I think he's in his prime. I think he'll hold the belt a little bit longer there.
Yeah.
You got to think that it's going to be very scrappy. It's going to be very scrambly, as these flyweights do at the high level. I'd probably take a submission. This fight ends in submission, just like it did last time. There's 5 rounds to play with it. But yeah, I'll take Pantoja.
Has Royval gone 5 rounds before?
It's a good question. I don't think he has, because he would have had to be a main event. And his last couple of fights have been finishes. He knocked out Mateus Nicolau in round 1. He submitted Matt Schnell in round 1.
Yeah.
I don't think he's had a chance to go 5 rounds. So this is his first time, and that's another thing to test him.
Because we know Pantoja can. So, I mean,
Precisely,
the smaller weight classes as well, so, they go 5 rounds like they do it every week. So I don't know if that's going to be too much of a big deal, but it's a factor. It's a factor. It's a mental factor too. So
perfect segue into the main event of the evening with 2 fighters that can definitely go 5 rounds, 25 minutes each. Have done this multiple occasions.
Yeah.
We got Leon Rocky Edwards, headshot bang, against Colby Covington, the Chaos. Line set at 222 for Colby Covington and $1.67 for Leon Edwards.
The MMA GOAT journalist Ariel Helwani this morning, and he was talking about he doesn't think there's ever been a title challenger that is now challenging to when their last fight was. He's coming up to almost 2 years since he's fought.
Yeah, I believe his last was March 2022 when he went up against Jorge Masvidal.
21 months ago. So Kamaru Usman was literally the pound for pound number 1 fighter in the world at one point when Leon Edwards was fighting him, and beat him twice. If Colby wins, MMA's fake to me. I don't know. I just can't like it. The numbers on paper don't make sense that you can just come in after 2 years. Leon's good, man. Leon has proven it, and he's proven it in every that he. Oh, he's not going to do well against this wrestler. This guy's just going to take him down. He negates the wrestling and then outstrikes him on the feet, 50-45. Like, head kicks him in the first one and then beats him in a decision. Like, I just don't know. I don't know how you can be away for 2 years and come in. Like, if Colby can pull it off, man, he's something special.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's no secret that he relies mostly on his wrestling game and his gas tank, which is excellent way to win 5-round fights. And we've seen welterweight be a division that's dominated by guys like that in the likes of a GSP, who was the blueprint for fighting that style. And I guess a big question here is Colby a better wrestler than Kamaru Usman? Does he have more of an ability to take the fight to the mat and hold it there? And when we looked at Colby fighting Kamaru Usman, I mean, the wrestling kind of negated, and for the most part, they were striking. Wasn't really much takedowns. Even in the second fight, I think it was only until round 5, maybe there was a slip or a takedown for about a second before Usman got back up. So we know that Leon's going to be the more technical striker. No one's going to argue that. The question is, can Colby take him down? Can he take him down early? Is the layoff really going to play a factor? I don't think it will, because he's done this before. I think in his rematch against Usman, it was over a year since his last fight, which was his Usman fight. He has a history of doing this. He just has the favor with Dana White. He's got the Donald Trump card in his back pocket, and he's playing it really well.
All things not to do with fighting. None of those things have anything to do with fighting.
My point being, I think he has planned for this. I think he's prepared for this. I think he's put everything into, knowing that he was going to have this layoff and just wait for this title fight. I don't think that's a great situation to be in. I think, I'm picking Leon Edwards in this fight. How can you not? How can you not? All of the data, like you said, has shown that Leon is a fighter that's consistent, that's only getting better in each fight. Looked impeccable against that in that Bilal fight where there was an eye poke, no contest. Looked impeccable in all the other fights surrounding that. Yeah, he had that moment in round 5 against Diaz, but anyone can get rocked by a good 1-2 down the pipe.
I'm glad you say that, because I was literally just about to say, I remember it might have even been just pre-Reebok. And he knocked that dude out in the first round, did that little dance. Like, it was like 6 seconds. They weren't even wearing Reebok gear, and it was on some London card like 9 years ago. I don't think he's missed a beat since then, other than that Diaz getting, like, he's never looked like, other than, and then the Usman fight being tired, if you want to call that as well, but he ended up head kicking him and winning. But he's looked so consistent. I think that's going to be the key to this fight for me. It has to be consistency. Like, competition, you know what it's like. If you're not competing, I do agree with you that people like Colby, it almost doesn't matter for people like them that they can be away for so long. Conor McGregor never was the same. He was never the same after he had that long layoff. He came back and he just kept. We said it against Poirier. It's like, dude, you cannot go. Leon Edwards is Poirier here, man. He's active. He's so active, and he's fighting top 5 guys, back to back to back. You can't just come in off the couch and go, I'm going to beat the number 1 guy who just beat the GOAT of our division, the recent GOAT of our division. It's just, to me, like, it's going to be otherworldly impressive if he can pull it off.
It definitely will be. I mean, I think the thing with Colby Covington is, if you look at when he does win fights, which is pretty much every fight outside of the Usman fights, he pretty much doesn't get hit. He doesn't get hit. He keeps the pressure on. He goes the distance, and he wins every round. He doesn't really drop rounds. It's never competitive. This fight's going to be competitive.
He's going to get hit.
He's not the kind of guy, even when he does take people down like Jorge Masvidal, he doesn't choke him out. He doesn't even risk going for a submission, because his whole thing's about control. We saw Leon get up in the first fight with Usman and have plenty of moments, even though he was down on rounds going into round 5. He was always there. He was always there, threatening with strikes, counter wrestling even and getting a round off Usman in that first fight and taking him down. And then in the second fight, completely negated the wrestling and won the rounds clearly. Dominant win. He's not going to be behind in any of those aspects, and he's always going to be getting up in this fight. So if it's going to be competitive, I'm going to have to take Leon Edwards. To me, Leon Edwards kind of takes Usman's crown. And if you look at that first fight with Usman against Colby, or even the second, they were competitive, but I just can't see, Edwards kind of struggling and giving the fight away to Covington. Covington always is in control for an extended period of time when he wins his fights. It's not going to be like that here. So yeah, I just see one guy in his prime and one guy just trying to get that one title fight, just trying to kind of, space things out, looking for the perfect night. Leon's always in there. He's always active. He's always looking better. He's got more tools here. He's going to be the more technical striker. His athleticism through the roof. I have to take him here. It's just a safe one with all the data.
I think even the odds, like the odd is so close. I think that everyone, especially being the character that he is, you listed it all, the Trump stuff, Dana, America, like whatever it is, we're all, I think, again, this is my opinion, we're all being victims of the promotional beast that is the UFC right now. I would go as far to say that I don't think this is going to be close, dude. Like this cannot be close. Like Leon should destroy him. That's not always how things go. I get it. Like people can come in and he could come in and take him down for 5 rounds. We'll be like, holy shit, he's a really good fucking wrestler. Like we didn't see that coming. To me, this shouldn't even be close. Leon should steamroll him. He's a way better striker than Usman is, and Usman was piecing up Covington on the feet. Got the late stoppage. Mark Goddard, that famous Mark Goddard late stoppage, busted up his face, man. So
if we want to really simplify it, the fight goes one of two ways. Leon defends the takedowns or doesn't let Colby control him on the ground, gets back up real quick and pieces him up.
Yeah.
Or Colby keeps him down, grinds it out, wins the fight.
Yeah.
I can't see that middle ground where it's going one round to Leon, one round to Colby, or one round here, and then we get to round 5 and it's 2 apiece. I can't see that. Someone's game plan will reign supreme, and I reckon we'll be in round 3 and we'll know who that person is.
Yeah, well, I look forward to that round 3.
Yeah, if we can make it there, mate. But oh, look, it's a great card to end the year. Hopefully it all stays together. Fingers crossed. I can't wait for the press conference, specifically Ian Gary, Colby Covington. It's going to be a mess. It'll be fun. Last card of the year, Las Vegas. I'm keen to see it. I'll be in Sydney watching it with some of the boys. But yeah, keen to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man. Like you said, good way to finish the year. And yeah, hopefully our boy Tony gets up.
Hopefully. Yeah, I'm with him. I'm with him till the end.
Till the wheels
fall off. It'll be a lovely way. All right, mate. I'll see you later.
All right, see you, brother.